the Pulsating Biology O-Levels crash course for the chapter Disease and the Immunity. We have already covered this entire chapter and it is present in our the playlist, but we're going to discuss the entire crash course in this video and all of the subtopics of this chapter. And let's begin with the chapter. Firstly, we have already talked about the pathogens. What are basically the pathogens? Pathogens are termed as the organisms that basically causes the disease. For example, when you talk about the malaria is a very common pathogen. Or you talk about the coronavirus, we say that, for example, corona is a pathogen that basically causes the disease in the human body. So these are all the pathogen that causes the disease in a human body. When you talk about the pathogens can either be bacteria, they can either be virus, like I've given you an example of the coronavirus, they can be fungi, or they can be protozoa. So these are all the subclasses of the pathogens: bacteria, virus, fungi, and the protozoa. Let's have a look at their examples. For example, somebody has been caused by the cholera. So this is caused by the bacteria. When you talk about the AIDS, we all know that AIDS is a virus contagious disease. When you talk about the fungi or the fungus is caused by the thrush. But when you talk about the protozoa involve the plasmodium. But plasmodium is itself a pathogen that basically causes the malaria. Malaria is a disease that is caused by the protozoan that is known as the plasmodium. And so in turn, we need to understand that pathogens are those organisms that basically causes the disease in the human body, and those pathogens can either be bacteria, they can either be virus, they can either be fungi, or they can either be protozoa. Next, we're going to understand that how the pathogens enters in through our body. So we all know that there are barriers, there are defense barriers that are present in our human body. For example, the foremost barrier that we talk about is the skin. Skin is the largest organ of the body, so it in turn known as the largest barrier of the body also. So whenever pathogen tries to invade into the human body, it has to go through the largest organ, that is the skin. The skin barrier is termed as the epidermis. It is the outermost layer of the skin. When you talk about the next layer or the next line of defense, the secondary line of defense is the hair that are present in the nose. In a nasal cavity, basically hair are present that is functioning as the trapping the air molecules or the particles that are harmful towards the body. So whatever it does is that they filters out the bacteria and does not allow any harmful particle to basically enter into your body or into your stomach. Thirdly, we say that the third line of defense includes the mucus. Mucus is a thick structure. There is a thick liquid kind of a structure that we often feel in our throat also. It is responsible and it is present in the trachea, and it is responsible for tracking all of those particles that basically inflates and pass through the secondary line of the defense and are not supposed to enter into the body. Secondly, we talk about the stomach. After the largest barrier, that is the skin, secondary barrier, that is the hair present in the nose, the thirdly barrier, that is the mucus. On the fourth number, we have the stomach. Stomach contains certain acids and the certain substances. The most common acid is known as the HCl, that is termed as the hydrochloric acid. This is a very acidic substance that is present in the stomach that kills all the bacteria that basically enters through all the line of the defense. This is the last stage for which the organisms cannot go much more further. So when you talk about the skin, then we talk about the hair that is present in the nose, then we talk about the mucus, and then we talk about the stomach. Once it has passed the stomach, there are no certain bacteria that causes any harm towards the body. Next, we're going to talk about the life cycle of mosquito. Since we have talked about the pathogens, you need to understand that how mosquito is termed as the pathogen. So basically it starts from the different phenomena, but firstly let's talk about how the adult female mosquitoes lay eggs. And they lay eggs, they lay eggs in a stagnant water. Stagnant means a water that is not moving, that is a still water. And wherever there is a still water, there is a very high chances of malaria being arising from that stagnant water. So the adult female mosquitoes basically lays their eggs into the holding water, that is the stagnant water, and as eggs basically hatch after a few days to several months. It takes about some days to several months to basically, after being laid, to be developed into a larva or be developed into the pupa. After the eggs are being laid and they are hatched, it becomes into a larva, where the larvae are very aquatic in nature, and they develop into a pupa within the days limit of the 5. In the 5 days, the larva is converted into the pupa, whereas pupa develops into an adult into 2 to 3 days. So this is the entire phenomenon of not much more than 3 to 4 months that the adult female basically lays eggs in the stagnant water that are hatched and then are converted into the larva. And from the larva, it is converted into the pupa into the 5 days, and then from the pupa, it is converted into the an adult into 2 to 3 days. This is the entire life cycle of the mosquitoes and how they grow into an adult and causes different diseases in the human body and are termed as the pathogen. Next, we are going to talk about another virus, that another pathogen that causes the AIDS. That is the virus. We have already spoken about how the virus is a pathogen, and that very common pathogen that is caused by that disease is known as the AIDS. So, whenever we talk about the AIDS, you need to understand what is the full form of AIDS. So, AIDS stands for acquired immunodeficiency disease. This is the entire disease that are very not commonly found in our human community. When you talk about the pathogens, you need to understand that the pathogen that is involved in the AIDS, which is a virus, and it is a specific name of that virus, that is the HIV. HIV is the virus that basically is responsible for the disease that is the AIDS. So this stands for the immunodeficiency disease, where the immune system of the person basically intact with the entire body and thus causes the disease in the human body. So this is another example of the pathogen and how the virus causes the AIDS. Since we've talked about how AIDS are being formed, we need to also understand that how AIDS are very contagious and how it is formed from the virus that is the HIV. When you talk about the AIDS, you need to understand that there are several factors through which the AIDS can be transmitted. For example, the sexual intercourse, for example, sharing of the needles, or any unhygienic substance or any unhygienic activities that is being taking place. Other than that, we talk about the blood transport, for example. If you go into a laboratory and they take your blood into a syringe that is basically taken by a patient, then that blood may be transfused into your body, due to which the pathogens or the bacteria that are present there might enter into your bloodstream, causing you the AIDS. Other than that, we say from the mother to the fetus, when the baby is about to born, it can be transferred to through the placenta, or from the mother to the infant through the breast milk. These are all the consequences through which the AIDS can be transmitted from the one body to another. That's why we say it can be contagious. Other than that, when you talk about the another topic that we have in our chapter was how the excessive consumption of the alcohol can basically affect the human body. We all know that the alcohol itself is very harmful towards the human body, but when you talk about what are the specific factors that alcohol basically causes majorly, is it reduces the self-control. The person first and foremost loses his self-control whenever there is excessive consumption of the alcohol. Anything in excessive is always a harmful thing, but when you talk about the alcohol, it majorly results in the reduce of the self-control. That means that the person becomes depressant. By depression, it doesn't mean that the person becomes depression. It means that the nervous system of the person basically depresses, and it does not work in a very proper manner. The sympathetic and the unsympathetic parasympathetic nervous system does not work very efficiently. It also reaction time increases. For example, I've already given you this example in the lecture, that for example, if a person is driving with who is alcoholic and he sees a person is passing by the road, the reaction time would, for example, if a normal person is driving, it might take 10 seconds for him to press the brake, but whenever an alcoholic person is driving, it might take him more than 10 seconds. It might take him double the time, for example 20 seconds, for him to basically press the brake or pull the brake in order to save the person that is passing by. So the reaction time basically increases, and obviously due to excessive consumption of alcohol, there's a damage to the liver that terms as the cirrhosis, that in turn results as a cancer or the death of the human body. Other than that, we say that the social implications are also a major consequence when you talk about the excessive consumption of alcohol, because the person is not in his senses. He might lose his job, he might drug abuse, he might take some decisions that might be a very not very in beneficial manner for him. So these are all the effects that basically caused by an excessive consumption of alcohol, specifically alcohol. Other than that, what are the other diseases that we're going to talk about? One of the disease is the lung cancer. When you talk about the lung cancer, you need to understand that there are two kinds of the lung cancer. Either they are malignant lung cancer, or either they are benign lung cancer. Malignant lung cancer is a cancer that is basically transferred from one cell to another, from other to another, from other to another, and it keeps on and damages the entire part. But when you talk about the benign, this benign tumor does not spread from one cell to another. It stays inside the one cell. However, how the lung cancer is basically caused? The lung cancer is basically caused due to the mutation. Mutation means that whenever there is an exchange in the DNA material due to the mutation of the genes or the other factors, it may cause some of the problems whenever there is any person or the patient suffering from the lung cancer. Other than that, since it is a cancer, we say that there is an uncontrolled cell division that may be malignant or may be benign. Other than that, the cell become immoral. It does not function very efficiently. These are the few consequences when you talk about the person who is suffering from the lung cancer. All of these diseases are basically included in your syllabus. Next is the heart disease. When you talk about the heart disease, you need to understand that when you talk about the heart basically does not function very well if the superior vena cava or inferior vena cava or pulmonary artery or vein or all the veins and arteries that are involved in bringing the blood towards the heart or taking the blood away from the heart are not working very properly. There are two factors: either there would be any constriction or either there might be any dilation. So whenever due to any heart disease there is a constriction of the blood vessels and the blood cannot be transfused properly towards the heart, we say that the fat is deposited in the lining of the arteries due to which the heart disease might occur. Other than that, when you talk about the coronary artery is a major artery that supplies the heart. If there is any defect in the coronary artery, the blood cannot be properly transported towards the heart. We say that the patient might be suffering from the or might have a chance of suffering from the heart disease, and in turn this entire heart disease result as an heart attack, minor or the major depending upon the condition of the patient. Next, we're going to discuss about use of the diseases that are related to the lung cancer or the lungs due to the excessive consumption of alcohol. We have already discussed the lung cancer and the heart disease. The only two we are left with is the bronchitis and the emphysema, which is also very common and also very easy to talk about. When you talk about the bronchitis, you need to understand that the bronchitis, B for bronchitis, B for bacterial infection, it would be easier for you to learn that it is caused by the entirely bacterial infections. All of the bacterial infections that are basically present in our lungs or reach towards the lung that causes the bronchitis. And due to in the bronchitis, what happens is that the mucus that is present in our trachea increases, due to which the air passage is very narrow, due to which the air cannot be very properly processed into the lungs. That's why we say there's an increased production of the mucus. What happens is that mucus is basically a food for the bacteria, and as we have talked about that the bacterial infection is entirely based upon the bronchitis, this increased production of the mucus is very harmful towards the body. That's why we say that whenever there's a bronchitis, there's a bacterial infection in the lungs or in the trachea, due to which there's an increase in the mucus, that in turn due to which we cannot in turn increase the bronchitis. And this is all you need to know about the bronchitis. Next we have the emphysema. When you talk about the emphysema other than bronchitis, we say the emphysema is more common in the smokers. Why so? Because in the smoking we have certain chemicals, for example tar, for example nicotine, and all of the substances that are present in our smoker for a very long period of the time. For example, it stays in the body for a long period of the time than a person who does not smoke. That's why it would be more harmful versus a person who smokes. We say what happens is that it weakens the alveoli. Alveoli are the air sacs that where the exchange of the air basically takes place. Either the oxygen is excreted out or the carbon dioxide is excreted out, oxygen is inhaled in. These are the some phenomena that occurs in the alveoli, due to which alveoli are very important. If it weakens, then it might be a problem for many of the patients. Other than that, we say since the alveoli provides a larger surface area, if it weakens, it provides a lesser surface area for the exchange of the gases, due to which it leads to the breathlessness. That means the patient is not able to breathe very properly and feels shortness of the breath, due to which the alveoli is burst. Whenever they are not able to control the concentration of oxygen and carbon dioxide, they basically burst, due to which the patient ultimately dies because of the lung being very much affected. Here we are done with the entire chapter, and we have covered all of the diseases, we have covered all of the consequences, we have covered all of the pathogens and what kinds of the pathogens causes which kind of the disease, all of which we have discussed. Here we are done with the crash course of the chapter Immunity and Disease, chapter number 13 for the olevels biology. If you have any questions, you can ask in the comment section below. Thank you for watching.